Let me ask you a simple question. Why is it that two people can wake up in the same city with the same 24 hours facing similar challenges, yet one builds a life of success while the other remains trapped in frustration? The answer isn't luck, it isn't talent, and it certainly isn't some mysterious force choosing favorites. The difference begins with one thing that most people completely underestimate: focus. Before your hands ever do the work, before your feet take the first step, before your bank account changes or your circumstances improve, your mind has already decided the direction your life is going. Think about how your day begins. The very first thoughts that enter your mind start shaping everything that follows. If the first thing you think is, "This is going to be another terrible day," you've already programmed yourself to notice every inconvenience, every setback, and every reason to quit. But if you wake up asking yourself, "What opportunity can I create today? What problem can I solve? What can I improve?" your brain immediately starts searching for answers instead of excuses. The world hasn't changed. The traffic is the same. The people are the same. The opportunities are the same. The only thing that's different is where your attention is directed. Your mind is like a filter. Every second, millions of pieces of information surround you, but your brain can only pay attention to a tiny fraction of them. So it constantly asks one question: what matters most? The answer depends entirely on what you've been focusing on. If you're obsessed with failure, you'll notice every reason something won't work. If you're obsessed with growth, you'll notice every chance to move forward. That's why successful people often seem lucky. They aren't seeing a different world. They're paying attention to different possibilities. Most people spend years focusing on what they lack. They count the money they don't have. They compare themselves to people who seem further ahead. They replay every mistake they've ever made until those mistakes become part of their identity. Eventually, they stop believing they're capable of changing because their focus has convinced them that failure is permanent. But failure is rarely permanent. What's permanent is the direction of your attention. If your mind keeps staring at closed doors, you'll never notice the open ones standing just a few steps away. Here's something powerful to understand. Every achievement that exists today was once nothing more than someone's dominant thought. Every business, every invention, every championship, every masterpiece began inside the mind before it appeared in reality. The external world is often a delayed reflection of your internal world. If your thoughts are filled with discipline, vision, persistence, and purpose, your actions will eventually mirror those qualities. If your thoughts are filled with fear, hesitation, and self-doubt, your actions will mirror those as well. You cannot consistently create a confident life while constantly thinking fearful thoughts. This is why your focus matters even before you take action. Action doesn't appear out of nowhere. It grows from belief. Belief grows from repeated thoughts. Repeated thoughts grow from repeated focus. If every day you tell yourself that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, or not capable enough, your actions will become smaller and weaker. You'll hesitate when opportunities appear. You'll avoid risks that could change your future. You'll settle for comfort because your focus has convinced you that greatness belongs to someone else now. Imagine the opposite. Imagine waking up every day with one mission that dominates your thinking. You don't waste hours comparing yourself to strangers online. You don't let criticism control your emotions. You don't allow temporary setbacks to become permanent identities. Instead, every decision is guided by one question: does this move me closer to the person I want to become? Suddenly, your choices become simpler. You begin reading instead of scrolling. You begin training instead of complaining. You begin building instead of blaming. Those actions don't happen because of motivation. They happen because your focus has changed. People often misunderstand the phrase, "The universe provides what you focus on." They imagine that simply thinking positive thoughts will magically transform their lives. That's not how reality works. The universe doesn't reward fantasy, it rewards alignment. When your thoughts, decisions, habits, and actions all point toward the same destination, you become the type of person who recognizes opportunities and has the courage to act on them. Your focus doesn't pull success out of thin air. It prepares you to create it. Think about elite athletes. Long before they stand on the podium holding a trophy, they've already seen themselves succeeding thousands of times in their minds. Every practice session, every sacrifice, Every early morning workout is fueled by a clear vision of who they are becoming. Their focus shapes their behavior long before the results become visible. That's why they keep moving when nobody is watching. They're not waiting for evidence before believing. They're creating the evidence through relentless consistency. The same principle applies in business, relationships, education, and personal growth. Whatever consumes your attention eventually influences your identity. If you constantly focus on becoming more valuable, you'll naturally develop new skills. If you focus on solving bigger problems, people will begin seeing you as someone worth trusting. If you focus on becoming disciplined instead of merely appearing successful, you'll build habits that continue producing results long after motivation disappears. The tragedy is that most people never intentionally choose their focus. They hand it over to social media, negative news, toxic conversations, and endless distractions. They spend hours consuming other people's dreams while neglecting their own. Every notification steals a little more attention. Every unnecessary comparison weakens confidence. Every excuse becomes another brick in the wall, separating them from the life they claim they want. Then they wonder why months pass without meaningful progress. It's impossible to build an extraordinary future while giving ordinary distractions control over your mind. The greatest investment you can ever make isn't just in money, education, or business. It's learning to control what deserves your attention. Because once you master your focus, your decisions become intentional instead of emotional. Your habits become purposeful instead of random. Your confidence grows because you're proving to yourself every single day that your attention belongs to your goals, not your fears. There will always be distractions competing for your mind. There will always be people telling you what you can't do. There will always be setbacks trying to convince you to quit. But none of those things have the power to define your future unless you give them your attention. The moment you decide that your vision deserves more focus than your fears, you begin changing the direction of your life from the inside out. That's where every transformation begins. Not with a dramatic event, not with luck, not with perfect circumstances, but with the quiet decision to focus on the future you're determined to create, even when the results haven't appeared yet. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you're feeding something inside your mind. You're either feeding courage or fear. You're feeding discipline or excuses. You're feeding confidence or insecurity. The human mind works like a garden. Whatever you consistently water begins to grow. It doesn't judge whether the seed is good or bad. It simply responds to repetition. If you spend every day watering doubt, don't be surprised when your life is surrounded by uncertainty. If you spend every day watering determination, resilience, and purpose, don't be surprised when success begins to feel more attainable than it ever did before. The biggest mistake most people make is believing fear is something that simply happens to them. They act as though fear is an uncontrollable force that arrives without permission. But fear becomes powerful because it's constantly being fed. Every time you replay your failures in your head, you're feeding fear. Every time you imagine the worst possible outcome instead of preparing for the best possible opportunity, you're feeding fear. Every time you convince yourself that someone else is smarter, luckier, richer, or more talented, you're feeding fear. Eventually, fear becomes so familiar that it starts sounding like common sense. Listen carefully to the conversations happening inside your own mind. How often do you hear yourself saying, "What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I'm not good enough?" Those questions seem harmless, but they slowly reshape your identity. Your brain doesn't know the difference between an imagined threat and a real one. The more often you imagine failure, the more your mind prepares you to avoid it. Instead of taking action, you hesitate. Instead of speaking up, you stay silent. Instead of building something meaningful, you wait for the perfect moment that never arrives. Now compare that mindset with someone who asks different questions. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" they ask, "What if I succeed?" Instead of worrying about criticism, they focus on improvement. Instead of searching for reasons to quit, they search for ways to adapt. The circumstances around both people may be identical, but the quality of their questions completely changes the quality of their lives. That's because your mind follows the direction of your attention. Whatever question you repeatedly ask yourself becomes the path your brain starts exploring. Modern life makes this challenge even harder because distractions are everywhere. Every time you open your phone, you're entering a competition for your attention. Negative headlines, endless arguments, viral drama, unrealistic lifestyles, and constant comparison all fight for space inside your mind. Most people consume hours of negativity every single day without realizing the cost. They wake up anxious, scroll through bad news, compare themselves with strangers, and spend the rest of the day wondering why they feel overwhelmed. They don't understand that what enters the mind eventually shapes the person. Imagine trying to build physical strength while eating nothing but unhealthy food. It wouldn't matter how much you wanted muscles because your daily habits would work against your goal. The exact same principle applies to your mindset. You cannot expect confidence while constantly consuming negativity. You cannot expect discipline while surrounding yourself with laziness. You cannot expect optimism while feeding your mind endless reasons to be pessimistic. Your mental diet is just as important as your physical one. This is where personal responsibility begins. It's easy to blame society, your past, your family, or your circumstances for the fears you carry. But at some point, growth demands that you ask a different question. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What am I choosing to feed every single day?" Because while you can't always control your environment, you can absolutely control what you allow to dominate your thoughts. You choose which conversations deserve your energy. You choose which voices deserve your attention. You choose whether your mornings begin with purpose or distraction. Discipline isn't just about waking up early or working harder. Discipline starts inside the mind. It's the ability to interrupt destructive thoughts before they become destructive actions. It's refusing to let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. It's training yourself to replace excuses with responsibility. That doesn't mean pretending life is easy. It means refusing to let difficulty become your identity. Strong people aren't fearless. They're simply unwilling to let fear make decisions on their behalf. Think about the people who accomplish extraordinary things. They don't live without fear. Entrepreneurs fear losing money. Athletes fear losing competitions. Public speakers fear criticism. Leaders fear making mistakes. The difference is they don't feed those fears until they become stronger than their purpose. They acknowledge fear, then they shift their attention back to action. Because action starves fear. Every time you do the thing you've been avoiding, you weaken fear's control over your life. Every difficult conversation, every challenging workout, every calculated risk sends a message to your brain that growth matters more than comfort. Comfort is one of the greatest traps you'll ever face. Your mind naturally wants safety because safety feels predictable. But growth has never lived inside predictability. Every meaningful achievement requires stepping into uncertainty. That's why successful people become comfortable being uncomfortable. They stop expecting confidence before taking action. Instead, they understand that confidence is earned through repeated action. Every time they face discomfort, instead of escaping it, they strengthen the mental muscles that average people never develop. Another dangerous habit is constantly seeking validation from others. When your confidence depends on applause, criticism becomes unbearable. When your self-worth depends on likes, followers, or approval, your focus shifts away from building your future and toward managing other people's opinions. That's one of the fastest ways to feed insecurity. The strongest individuals learn to measure themselves against yesterday's version of themselves, not against strangers on the internet. They compete with their own potential instead of someone else's highlight reel. There's also a hidden cost to making excuses. Every excuse may provide temporary relief, but it quietly steals long-term progress. When you blame circumstances for everything, you surrender the power to change anything. Responsibility can feel heavy at first, but it's also incredibly freeing because the moment you accept responsibility, you reclaim control. You stop waiting for life to improve and start becoming the reason it improves. That's when your attention shifts away from problems you can't control and towards solutions you can create. Your environment also deserves careful attention because people influence your focus more than you think. Spend enough time around individuals who complain constantly, and you'll begin noticing problems everywhere. Spend enough time around disciplined people who take ownership of their lives, and you'll begin thinking differently without even realizing it. Energy is contagious. Mindsets spread through conversations, habits, and expectations. That's why protecting your environment isn't selfish. It's necessary if you're serious about building a different future every morning. You have an invisible decision to make. Will you feed fear or will you feed purpose? Will you strengthen excuses or will you strengthen discipline? Will you invest your attention in distractions that disappear tomorrow or in habits that shape the next decade of your life? Your future isn't determined by one dramatic decision. It's built through thousands of small moments where you choose what deserves your focus. Every thought you repeat, every habit you reinforce, and every action you consistently take becomes another drop of water nourishing either the life you want or the life you're trying to escape. The direction of your future depends on which one you choose to keep feeding. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is that success will eventually arrive if they simply wait long enough. They believe that one day the perfect opportunity will knock on their door, everything will suddenly make sense, and life will finally give them the chance they've been hoping for. But here's the reality that separates winners from everyone else. Opportunity doesn't look for people who are waiting. It looks for people who are ready. The universe doesn't reward wishful thinking. It rewards preparation. It rewards the individual who has been working in silence long before anyone noticed their progress. Look around at the people who seem to achieve extraordinary things. From the outside, it often appears as though success happened overnight. One day they're unknown, and the next day everyone is talking about them. But what you rarely see are the years they spent preparing while nobody was watching. You don't see the mornings they woke up before sunrise to improve their skills. You don't see the countless failures they endured without quitting. You don't see the sacrifices, the lonely nights, the repeated practice, or the constant self-improvement that built the foundation beneath their success. People celebrate the visible moment while ignoring the invisible preparation that made it possible. Preparation is powerful because it changes who you become before life ever changes around you. Imagine someone who dreams of running a successful business but never learns sales, communication, leadership, or financial discipline. Even if an incredible opportunity suddenly appeared, would they truly be ready to handle it? Probably not. Opportunity without preparation often becomes wasted potential. That's why some people receive chances that completely transform their lives, while others receive the exact same opportunities and lose them. The difference isn't always the opportunity itself. The difference is the person receiving it. Too many people confuse hope with progress. They hope next year will be better. They hope someone will recognize their talent. They hope the economy improves. They hope circumstances become easier. Hope can inspire you, but hope alone builds nothing. If hope isn't followed by action, it eventually becomes another excuse for waiting. Every day you spend hoping without preparing is another day someone else is quietly becoming stronger, smarter, faster, and more valuable than you. The truth is that life constantly asks one silent question. If I gave you everything you've been asking for today, would you actually be ready to keep it? Most people focus entirely on receiving without asking whether they've become the kind of person capable of sustaining success. It's one thing to make money. It's another thing to manage it wisely. It's one thing to gain influence. It's another thing to handle responsibility. It's one thing to reach the top. It's another thing to stay there. Preparation isn't about getting what you want. It's about becoming someone who deserves what they receive. Think about athletes preparing for a championship. They don't wait until the day of the competition to begin training. They understand that victory is decided long before the event begins. Every workout, every healthy meal, every disciplined routine is an investment in a future moment. When the competition finally arrives, they aren't relying on luck. They're relying on preparation. Their confidence doesn't come from positive thinking alone. It comes from knowing they've already done the work that most people were unwilling to do. The same principle applies to every area of life. If you want financial freedom, prepare by learning valuable skills, understanding money, and developing discipline. If you want meaningful relationships, prepare by becoming trustworthy, emotionally mature, and dependable. If you want leadership, prepare by learning how to solve problems, communicate clearly, and stay calm under pressure. The universe doesn't reward titles, it rewards capability. The more capable you become, the more opportunities naturally begin finding their way toward you, because capable people solve problems, And the world always rewards problem solvers. Many people complain that opportunities never come their way, but sometimes the opportunities are already there. They're simply disguised as hard work. A difficult project at work could become the experience that leads to a promotion. A challenging conversation could become the beginning of a stronger relationship. A failure could become the lesson that prevents a much bigger mistake in the future. Prepared people understand that every experience has value if they're willing to learn from it. Unprepared people only notice disappointment because they expected success without earning it. There's also something important about consistency that people often overlook. Preparation isn't exciting every day. Most of the time, it's repetitive. It's practicing when no one is applauding. It's reading another chapter when you'd rather relax. It's going to the gym when motivation has disappeared. It's improving one small skill, even though nobody notices the progress yet. These ordinary moments rarely feel significant while you're living them, but over time they create extraordinary results. Greatness is rarely built through one dramatic effort. It's built through thousands of ordinary decisions repeated with extraordinary commitment. This is where patience becomes a competitive advantage. We live in a world that wants instant gratification. People expect immediate success, immediate recognition, and immediate rewards. When those rewards don't appear quickly, they assume their effort isn't working. But preparation often happens beneath the surface. Just because the results aren't visible doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Think about planting a tree. For weeks, sometimes months, it may appear that nothing is changing above the ground. Yet underneath the soil, roots are growing deeper every single day. Without those roots, the tree could never survive future storms. Your own growth often works the same way. The discipline you're building today may not produce visible success tomorrow, but it's creating the strength you'll rely on years from now. Another reason preparation matters is because success always brings new challenges. People imagine that reaching their goals will eliminate problems, but success simply replaces old problems with bigger responsibilities. If you're not mentally prepared, success itself can become overwhelming. That's why character matters just as much as skill. Skills may open doors, but character determines whether you remain inside the room. Integrity, discipline, humility, resilience, and accountability become the qualities that protect everything you've worked so hard to achieve. Preparation also changes the way you respond to setbacks. Someone who hasn't prepared often sees failure as proof they should quit. Someone who has prepared sees failure as information. They ask different questions. They don't say, "Why did this happen to me?" They ask, "What can this teach me?" That mindset keeps them moving while others become stuck. Every obstacle becomes another opportunity to sharpen their abilities instead of another excuse to surrender their dreams. The people who accomplish remarkable things rarely wait until they feel ready. Instead, they spend every single day becoming more ready than they were yesterday. They understand that confidence grows from competence, and competence grows from preparation. Every book they read, every lesson they learn, every challenge they overcome adds another layer to the person they are becoming. They don't waste energy complaining that life isn't fair because they know fairness has never guaranteed success. Readiness does, so while others spend their days wishing for a breakthrough, prepared people spend their days building themselves. They know that when opportunity finally appears, there won't be time to become disciplined, skilled, resilient, or focused at the last minute. Those qualities must already exist. The universe has a remarkable way of placing opportunities in front of people who have quietly been preparing for them all along, because preparation transforms possibility into reality long before anyone else can see the results beginning to unfold. There is a massive difference between wanting success and becoming obsessed with earning it. Almost everyone wants a better life. Almost everyone dreams of financial freedom, confidence, influence, or achievement. But dreams alone have never changed a single life. The people who separate themselves from the crowd are not necessarily the most talented or the luckiest. They are the ones who become completely committed to their vision. Their focus isn't something they switch on when they feel motivated. It becomes part of their identity. They don't chase results every once in a while. They build a lifestyle that makes those results inevitable. Think about the most successful people you've ever admired. From the outside, Their achievements look extraordinary, but if you study their daily routines, you'll notice something surprising. Their success isn't built on occasional moments of brilliance. It's built on consistent actions repeated over and over again. They don't rely on inspiration because they know inspiration comes and goes. Instead, they rely on discipline. Discipline wakes them up when motivation is sleeping. Discipline keeps them moving when emotions tell them to quit. Discipline reminds them that the life they want tomorrow depends on the choices they make today. This is where most people lose the battle. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until they feel confident. They wait until everything seems perfect. But perfection is an illusion that keeps people standing still. The truth is that action creates clarity. Every step forward teaches you something the planning stage never could. Every attempt gives you experience. Every mistake makes you wiser. Every setback strengthens your resilience if you refuse to let it define you. The people who achieve remarkable things understand that progress is always more valuable than perfection. Obsession is often misunderstood. Some people hear the word and immediately think it's unhealthy, but there is a powerful kind of obsession that changes lives. It's the obsession with becoming better than you were yesterday. It's the obsession with mastering your craft instead of chasing applause. It's the obsession with improving your discipline while everyone else is searching for shortcuts. That kind of obsession doesn't destroy your future, it builds it. It gives you the energy to continue when others become comfortable. It pushes you to learn another skill, finish another project, and take another step long after the average person has stopped trying. Distractions are the greatest enemy of obsession. We live in an age where attention is constantly under attack. Every notification, every trending topic, every meaningless argument online is fighting to steal your focus. Hours disappear before you even realize where they went. Days become weeks, and weeks become years. Then people look back wondering why their lives haven't changed. The answer is simple. You cannot build an extraordinary future while giving ordinary distractions control over your attention. Every minute spent consuming things that don't move you toward your goals is a minute that could have been invested in becoming stronger, wiser, or more capable. Relentless action also means refusing to let failure become your final destination. Failure is not the opposite of success. In many cases, it's part of the journey towards success. Every successful person has experienced rejection, disappointment, and setbacks. The difference is that they never allowed temporary defeat to become a permanent identity. They understood that every challenge carried a lesson. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they asked, "What can I learn from this?" That single shift in perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. The people who keep moving eventually gain knowledge that those who quit will never possess. Another important truth is that consistency always beats intensity. Anyone can work hard for one day. Anyone can feel motivated for one weekend. But can you stay focused for months? Can you remain disciplined when nobody is watching? Can you continue improving after the excitement disappears? That's where real transformation happens. Small actions performed consistently create results that dramatic bursts of effort never will. Reading 10 pages every day is more powerful than reading 100 pages once a month. Training consistently is more effective than exhausting yourself once and then giving up. Saving a small amount regularly builds more wealth than making excuses while waiting for the perfect opportunity. Your habits quietly reveal your priorities. You don't become successful because of what you say you value. You become successful because of what you repeatedly do. If your daily actions don't match your biggest goals, then your goals remain wishes instead of plans. Every disciplined decision becomes a vote for the person you want to become. Every excuse becomes a vote for staying exactly where you are. That's why success isn't created in one defining moment. It's created through thousands of invisible choices that nobody celebrates until the results finally become impossible to ignore. There will always be people who doubt your vision. Some will laugh when you begin. Others will question why you're working so hard. Some may even try to convince you to lower your standards because your ambition makes them uncomfortable. You cannot allow other people's limitations to become your own. The moment you start living according to someone else's expectations, you abandon your own potential. Great achievements have always required the courage to keep moving even when approval is absent. Confidence grows when you trust your own process more than outside opinions. As your focus becomes stronger, you'll notice something remarkable. The things that once distracted you lose their power. Temporary pleasures become less important than long-term purpose. Complaints become less interesting than solutions. Excuses become harder to justify because you've experienced what disciplined action can accomplish. Your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone hoping for a better future and start seeing yourself as someone actively creating it every single day. That is the point where focus transforms into momentum. Momentum transforms into discipline. Discipline transforms into results. Those results create new opportunities, and every opportunity rewards the person who has continued showing up with relentless consistency. The universe seems to respond differently because you've become different. Your actions reflect your vision, your habits reinforce your purpose, and every single day you continue proving that extraordinary lives are never built through occasional effort, but through unwavering commitment to the person you have decided to become. The universe doesn't respond to empty wishes. It responds to the person you choose to become through your focus, your discipline, and your relentless action. The moment you stop feeding fear and start investing every ounce of your attention into growth, opportunities begin to appear where others only see obstacles. So from this day forward, guard your focus, master your mind, and remember that the future you create will always follow the direction of your attention.